Well, hello and welcome to our second OneChurch Everywhere training. If you don't know who I am, I'm Rachel and I'm the curate at St Peter's. And today we're going to be thinking about the how of missional communities, how we can make them happen. But before we go any further, I think it'd be really good for us to recap on what we did last session, which was thinking about the what and the why of missional communities. So what is a missional community? Well, firstly, it is Jesus-centred. It is not us-centred. It is not me-centred. A missional community is all about Jesus. It is made up of about 20 to 30 people, including children. And broadly speaking, it has a specific missional aim to reach either a specific neighbourhood or a particular street or a network of relationships, or it could be based around an interest or a hobby. It has a intentional disciple making culture that balances an activity of relationship with God, relationship with one another, and relationship with the wider world. Missional communities are places where we worship together, where we eat together, where we play together, where we share what we love together, where we demonstrate the love of Jesus through words and actions. And why are they needed? Well, they are places of community. They are places where we can be known, where people know who we are, know our names. Maybe places where people know us in a way that they don't when we gather on a Sunday for worship. They're places of mission. Missional communities are an easy place for us to reach out with the love of Jesus. They are a non-threatening environment in which to invite your friends and family who are checking out who Jesus is. You know, whereas a circle group can keep you accountable in your relationship with God in the way that you are sharing God's love, a missional community is a place where you can actually share God's love, where you can do mission together. And finally, it is a place where you can practice. It is a safe place to discover the gifts that God has given you. And those could be anything from spiritual gifts to more practical ones. Also, missional communities uncover the social space. You know, as a church, we're pretty good at meeting in our small groups, which are known as circles, gathering for worship on a Sunday. But often the mid-size, otherwise known as the social space, gets lost. And what missional communities do is they rediscover that space. And missional communities, I think, get back to how the Bible did church. Jesus met in mid-sized groups. Through the Gospels, we see that he loved to party with the nobodies and the somebodies. If you look at the early church, you will see that they gathered in people's homes. And the likelihood is that these were mid-sized groups made up of people from all different walks of life. And the whole reason we are doing missional communities is that we want to build a church whose heartbeat is mission and discipleship. We want to plant more churches like Hope Church Harrow View and Mosaic that are led by all sorts of different people, whether they are ordained or not ordained. And we see missional communities as a catalyst to enable all of this to happen, to see 10% of Harrow come to faith in 10 years. And at the end of last session, we thought about some of the pitfalls and the solutions. And, we came up with some problems. And before we go any further, I just want to revisit what some of those pitfalls are and think up of some solutions. Now, for those of you who are watching this, I don't know what pitfalls you came up with last time, but when I did this live at St Peter's, we came up with quite a few problems. And I just want to share what some of those were and then some of the solutions that we came up with too. So to summarise, the problems could be around lack of time, what we do with children, how we engage them, how we get everybody involved so it's not just the leaders doing everything, And how do we keep being missional and not becoming inward looking? So here are some possible solutions to those problems. So around lack of time, the whole reason we're doing these on a Sunday is that we are taking something out to allow something new to grow and to flourish. We're creating space for these groups to develop. Also, what I would say is look at what is already in your hands. Be intentional in the stuff that you are already doing. Last time I used the example of meals. We have about 21 meals a week. Start inviting people around to share in some of those meals. Children, how do we engage them? I would say children are some of the best evangelists. They are the ones who are going to have the confidence to share the love of Jesus with their friends. So get them contributing to your missional community. It might be as simple as deciding what food to have or thinking about what kind of activity you want to do. Recently, I heard about a missional group that was focused around serving our refugees here in Harrow. And one of the things they got to do with the kids was they kitted out a house that was going to house some refugees. And before those refugees came to stay in it, they, as together, children and adults, went and prayed around that house. And the children loved it. And another way I think that we can get children involved is using seasons and events. They are a great way in which to engage children. So it might be a birthday party for Jesus at Christmas. It might be an Easter egg hunt on your streets at Easter time. It might be a children's birthday party for somebody that you know at school. It might be praying for the new school year. But what I want to say when it comes to children is the key to involving them is doing it all in the spirit of fun. If you're having fun, then the children will have fun too. And how do we get everybody involved? Well, on Sundays, we encourage everybody to be contributors, not consumers. And I would say this same principle applies to missional communities. Everyone who is in a missional community has a part to play. Very practically, I think leaders need to be delegating responsibility. Each person in the group has a job to do. It might be facilitating what food you're going to eat, or organising the prayer, or coming up with different ways in which you can serve those that you're trying to reach out to. If you're a leader, you are not the person that needs to be hosting all the time. Other people need to step up to that too. And how do we keep being missional? How do we keep this fresh? Well, I think you need to keep on reviewing the aims of your missional community. By their very nature, missional communities are very fluid. You might start out wanting to reach a particular street or a group of people, but in 6 months' time, that might have changed. The direction of your group may be going to another area or to another place. And actually what that needs us to be is flexible and adaptable. The average length of a missional community is around about 18 months. So before we go any further, what do you think some of the opportunities and challenges around this are? Why don't you just take a few moments to discuss that in your groups? You might want to pause the video before you move on. So the question remains, how? The first thing I want to say is that everybody can do this. If you love Jesus, if you want to serve him, you can do this. You don't have to have been a Christian for a long time. You don't have to be ordained. You don't have to be on the staff team. A love for Jesus is all that is needed. And thinking about the how of missional communities, I think we need to be thinking about practices that build community, develop our gifts and push us out into mission, that ultimately build family and express and share God's love with those around us. Now, if you were planning a missional community, What would your key elements be? And what I want to do is I just want to share with you 3 key practices I think every missional community needs to have in it. Firstly, eat. In the early church, when people met in their homes, they ate together. In Acts 2 it says that day by day they met in people's homes and broke bread together. This was not just communion, it was remembering Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples. It wasn't just that, it was actually about sharing a meal, enjoying one another's company. Sharing food was at the heart of their life together. And what I want to say to us is that eating together is an important feature of our missional life together. It is the key to building community. And very practically, this does not have to be complicated. But what I would say is that we all need to be offering some form of hospitality. And simplicity is the key. Make sure that you get everybody in your missional community to bring something to share. Don't be the person that is always providing all the food. And also I think it's important to bear in mind that what you eat depends on the time of day that you meet. So if you're meeting in the morning, you might want to offer some pastries. Or if at lunchtime, it might be bring your favourite cooked dish. Or if you're hosting, you say, look, I'm providing, I don't know, a load of jacket potatoes. Can you bring some fillings? Offer food, but make it as simple and as effective as possible. Secondly, give. And all I want to say here is have a go. Bless others with the gifts that God has given you. You know, we learn as much from our successes as we do our failures. So don't be afraid to give it a go, to try out the gifts and the talents that God has blessed you with. And then share. You know, the greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul and your strength. And love your neighbour as you love yourself. You know, each one of us is called to love our neighbour. And as we love them, we share something of God's love for them and our love for God. You know, who could you share God's love with? And Christmas is a perfect opportunity for us to do this. And on the 5th of December, we are giving you all the opportunity to put this into practice, to have a go at sharing God's love. And what you decide to do is completely up to you. The beauty about missional communities is that you can do whatever you want to do as long as it's sharing God's love and building community with those around you. But here are a few ideas that you might want to try out. It might be serving those who are in need. It could be the homeless or refugees. Given it's December, you might want to do some carol singing on your street or in your neighbourhood, or inviting your neighbours round for some mulled wine or mince pies, or doing some kind of Christmas or Advent activity. And I've said this already, but if you've got kids, you might want to do some form of Christmas party. You know, you can do whatever you want, but the number one aim is to share the love of Jesus with others. So to close, in this session, we have recapped on what missional communities are. We've thought about why they are needed and how we can make this happen. And the questions that I want to close with are these. What have you found encouraging and challenging about today's teaching? At our next OneChurch Everywhere on the 5th of December, how are you going to build community and share the love of Jesus with others?